Hey guys, good morning. Happy Tuesday. It's the best day of your life. Actually, this morning I was listening to a little Jim Rohn, who is Tony Robbins' mentor, and he said, I forget what it was. It's like 7 things to say to yourself every morning. And the first thing was, I choose to be happy, you know, because being happy is a choice. So I'll actually share that link here. It's a YouTube link, YouTube University, man. It's a great. Um, but today I was going to talk a little bit. Yesterday I talked a little bit about the BRRRR method. Um, Today I wanted to talk about the the part of the BRRRR method. So if you don't know what the BRRRR method is, look at yesterday's Daily Nugget. But the part of the BRRRR method that is pretty important. It's, what will the property appraise for? And just a summary of the BRRRR method, it's buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. So we're at refinance. So the goal of the BRRRR method is to have your money work infinitely or a lot longer than if you were going to do traditional financing or buying something cash. So before you buy the property, you have to have a good estimate of what it's going to appraise for. So how do you do that? Well, you run what everybody in the business calls comps, comparable sales. Now, how can you run comps? Well, first off, there's many softwares you can use. If you're really in the business, I use PropStream. There's other people's softwares that they created, like other anyway, there's softwares. If you have access to the MLS, they can run comps. I can tell you there's a lot of real estate agents that don't know how to really run comps. Um, what you're looking for is houses that are within a certain area that are apples to apples. So let me just use an example. Let's say you're buying a property, and we'll use this $100,000 example. You're going to buy it for 50,000, put 50,000 into it, and you want to know what will it appraise for in the future. So first off, none of us know, but you can have a really good idea, and you can help get that appraisal. So what do you got to look for? If you're in like the Northeast, a lot of times you can't go, you want to look for houses that have sold within about a half a mile. When you're in the suburbs or in the Midwest or in parts of the West that are not congested, you can go out a mile. And if you don't know, you can ask, and you can just call an appraisal company and say, like, hey, in Philadelphia, where do you how far out can you use comps? So one is the distance. So like I'll give you an example. In the Northeast, you got to be a half a mile, like in Philadelphia. How far back? Usually it's only 6 months. So you run a report in one of these softwares. PropStream is one, but there's many, many softwares, and you can do this free too. You can go on Zillow and you can look at what's sold and then check the dates. It's not as organized, and there's definitely other softwares. But what you're looking for is what has sold in the last 6 months that's within, in this example, a half a mile, that is within the same square footage of the house that you're looking, within 200. So like, let's say you're looking at a 1,200 square foot house, you can look at 1,000 to 1,400 square feet. You can't compare it to a 2,000 square foot house. So you are looking for houses that have sold in the last 6 months within a half a mile, within 200 square feet, that are done apples to apples as to how you're going to do them. Now, here's one that this is where you can really use strategy. So let's say, you're buying a house for 50, you want to put 50 in it. That's a rental grade rehab. So you're doing everything new, but you're not pimping the house out. You're just doing, laminate floors and a starter kitchen set, nothing fancy. And you're looking at comps, and you see that comps of houses that are done rental grade are $120,000. But there are houses that have higher comps, 150,000, that are done retail, like very nice for really homeowners. Well, you can do some math there and strategy and see, like, does it make sense? Like, how much more of the rehab, if I'm spending 50,000, I'm putting in new plumbing, new electric, new this, new that. If I do the cosmetics a little nicer, like for a homeowner, which I know if it's a rental, a lot of times it doesn't make sense. If it's going to cost me 15,000 more, so now I go 50,000 plus 65, 115 to get a 150 appraisal. Is that better than 50 plus 50 to get a 120 appraisal? You follow? Just remember, you're going to refinance and get 75% of whatever that appraisal is. And if your goal is to get all your money back, sometimes it makes sense to put more money in the house. First off, you'll get higher rent. It'll look nicer. It'll appraise nicer. So you got to do that's another variable. So you want to see like what will your house appraise for, and you have to make it apples to apples. You're building the house. So if you're going to make it rental grade, you can't go and use comps that are high end. I also see people going, well, I see comps for 150. Well, look at the pictures of that house that sold for 150. Are you putting in the same finishes? If you're not putting in the same finishes, you're not going to get the same appraisal. So this is how you can determine what your future appraisal will be. Now, when you use the BRRRR method, in most instances, you can't refinance for 6 months, and it takes you time to buy it, close on it, fix it up, rent it out. So 6 months is not that long of a time. There are places, and if you need them, again, you can email me where you can refinance in 3 months. So that being said, let's say it's going to take 6 months. I just told you that you can only use comps that are for the last 6 months. So the comps that you use before you buy it are not going to be the same as the comps when you refinance. So there is a risk factor here. Did the market go down? Did the market go up? So if the market goes up, then you're probably going to get a higher appraisal. If the market stayed flat, then you're going to be about the same. And if the market goes down, then obviously it's going to affect your appraisal. So prior to getting your appraisal, this is the point I want to bring in here. You want to give the appraiser an appraisal assistance package. Now, how are you going to get to talk to the appraiser? Well, first off, when you get a lender, the lenders are not, after 2008, allowed to talk to these appraisers. And they're going to give them your phone number or your property manager's number in order to go out to the property. You can't go see the property if you don't give them access. When they do, you have their phone number and you can call them and email them, or call them, email them and say, hey, I want to just give you, like, I'm looking for a $135,000 appraisal. And here is some comps that I have in the area to kind of help you to the appraisal. We call it an appraisal assistance package. Now, the appraiser is going to do their own due diligence, but basically you're doing their job for them. And they now know what number. You can't say, I have to get this number. They can still appraise it for whatever they want. But if you give them a list of like, hey, sometimes they're human. They could miss these things. Everything is not so cut and dry. Like, hey, these five sales are what I'm shooting for, and they're similar to the house that I did, and they're same square footage. Now they know what you're looking for. They know that you did the backup. You're more likely to get your number. So if you are doing the BRRRR method, it's very important. You should be in contact with the appraiser when they reach out to you to get in the house, and you should give them some preliminary comps, appraisal assistance package, email it to them, and I'm telling you, you will get people that do this, my students that do this, get closer or definitely get their appraisal numbers than people that don't. If you don't, you're just shooting from the hip. And Mr. Appraiser, who's 82 years old, that has been in that market forever, and he thinks he knows what the values are, he might come up with a totally crazy number. Now, if you don't do this, you get an appraisal, and the appraisal doesn't, let's say you wanted a $130,000 appraisal, you got 100. What can you do? Well, you can always dispute the appraisal, but I can tell you almost in the last 5 years, I have never seen an appraiser substantially change their appraisal. They did their appraisal, they're going to try to justify how they came up with their number. So don't put them in a position where they have to justify their lower number. Help them in the beginning, get to your number, do this appraisal assistance package. This will super help you in the BRRRR method. And I hope that this helps you guys have the best day of your life. Thanks, guys.